Hello, hello. Today I'm going to be presenting about mine reclamation and remediation in California. Some looks at technologies and methodologies used. So going right in, thesis that while often overlooked by the public, mine reclamation and remediation efforts in California play a crucial role in restoring ecological balance and protecting wildlife and human communities. We're going to go over some processes used in that effort, uh, like good practice for climate solutions, technosouls, remediation through nutrients, as well as water and hydrology. And this is the goal is to spread some awareness of this progress through some people. Most people don't know that this sort of thing happens. So let's continue. So starting off, we need to lay down what is good practice in natural climate solutions. So people tend to be pretty misinformed about natural climate solutions or NCS because of popular media, as well as a lot of bad actors in the greenwashing industry. Just as a side note, greenwashing is when a company claims to be environmentally sustainable or friendly to the natural environment, saying they're donating all that, but in reality they're not. And this kind of it leaves a really bad taste for the green industry as a whole. So as well as some other unfortunate circumstances are when organizations, YouTubers and such, they do a planting organization. They plant one type of tree, and that leads to really big biodiversity issues. You plant one type of tree, they're all affected by the same natural disasters. They suck nutrients out of the ground. They're just it's just not there's no biodiversity, and it's like a desert, almost like a green desert. So in the Principles of Natural Climate Solutions article, we see that while tree planting can be perceived as a positive activity, replacing a natural forest by planting just non-native trees or just one species, even if they're faster growing and can help the environment potentially, is not considered a proper climate solution because the natural structure and function of the forest would be diminished as a result. Another important topic is the talking about what topsoil is and why we need to save it. So topsoil and the materials beneath it are a both a minute percent of the land of the world. You take all the oceans out of the equation, all the inhabitable areas too cold, cities, mountains, and we're left with really small amount of land that's actually arable and farmable. And topsoil is where all life stems from, essentially, and its health can make or break a habitat. And within the span of a human generation, they're pretty much non-renewable. It'd take years and years to recover something like a peat bog or a mountain valley. So it's really important to make sure that we maintain this and keep it alive. Um, and in this day and age, mining projects are kind of a necessary evil to function, to make the world function. You need phones, you need metal, all that sort of stuff. So um, it's progressing in history. They've gotten a bit better about managing post mining operations, but for the most part, they just do what they need to get their profits, toss some money at the government, and hopefully they fix it. So we're not quite there yet, but they have been being monitored for their impact on surrounding regions. Um, as a preface to the SMARA Act, or the Surface Mining and Reclamation Act of California, we sort of saw that after the California gold rush ended, there were hundreds of thousands of abandoned mines scattered across California, people looking for gold. And in the Department of Conservation's report, they state that the result was that the California's landscape has so many abandoned mine sites, and that they pose health, safety, environmental hazards. You don't want chemicals coming out of them. You don't want people falling in them. They can break structures and all that. So they need to be dealt with, and everything after that as well needs to be looked at. That was made in 1975 to combat and close both old abandoned mines as well as overseeing new project. And this act was made to preserve our topsoils. Here we see the Iron Mountain and or Shasta Mountain. Um, this is the effects of the mining scene. There they found a lot of iron, but unfortunately the waters running through the mountain were so contaminated, or rather so acidic, about a pH of 3. Um, the waters turned red. It killed thousands of salmon. I believe some people were unfortunately affected by this. On the right picture, that's a picture of a shovel being left in the water. It's even melted. And the middle picture is where the one of the world's might be the world's biggest water dehydrator is located. That's to filter out the the water and make sure it's treated and sent off. Iron Mountain was listed on the National Priorities List for U.S. EPA Superfund, ranking as the third largest polluter in the state of California in 1983. So first, we're going to go look at tackling mines. In this case, is Iron Mountain. Um, so it's basically impossible to reforest without handling all those heavy metals and other harmful materials and minerals. So what they had to do was sort of look at the hydrology of the area, right? They had to stop this pollution. So sealing off a mountain is much too big. So the engineers found a way to divert most of the clean water coming in from interacting with that area. And then from there, they were able to seal off the areas of the mountain that had the largest pollutants. I believe it was about 10,000 pounds of in the contaminated water runoff per day is about 10,000 pounds of iron and copper just found in the water. Then with these dirty water, they had filtration facilities capture the water and mud, which are then dried and sent to facility. Like again, we saw that picture of the water dryer. And then they also use lime or gypsum to neutralize those super acidic waters. And then after all that's done, they can then focus on restoring the local environment. But the harsh local region had to be taken into account during the remediation involvement, and it's been slow going. Another way that mine reclamation remediation can happen is remediation through nutrients. There are approximately 1,500 abandoned mines in Sierra Nevada, and there are active teams, both federal and private or nonprofit, working to restore them. And in cases where pollution, like before, has been minimized, teams can go in and fix the nutrients in the soil. So there's a lot of heavy metals, or maybe there's a lack of things like nitrogen. So in this case, mines tend to be very highly acidic. So oftentimes they'll apply lime or gypsum to lower or more so raise and neutralize that pH, so it's more acceptable for plants. They can't grow in that kind of soil. And they will then apply controlled releases of new fertilizers. But sometimes you just have to sit back and wait, because those fertilizers can get expensive, and sometimes they just don't stick to the plants, they don't stick to the soil, they run off, and you're losing good, viable nutrients. As Walker found when he tried to add more nutrients to the soil, even though it had enough, just to try and leach out that aluminum and manganese, but it was just stuck in there. Another way we've been remediating mines is through technosols. So technosols, by definition, are defined by their origin. So the origin of the soil was largely influenced by humans, as in we were the ones who created them, we were the ones who crafted them for a specific purpose. It can be expensive, but It's one of the best ways to fine tune a chemically heavy environment for any locale. And it's been proven to be similar or superior to the previous soils used in the area because we have so much input. In an article going over the stabilization of technosols, abandoned mine lands often have lost their natural resilience and adaptive capacity to retain potentially toxic trace elements, and therefore can act as a secondary source areas of acidic effluents and harmful contaminants into surface and pore waters. Essentially, what that's saying is that we need these crafted soils to help um, do the work that the current soils cannot do. They'll capture all that nasty stuff, like the chemicals running off, and trying to keep them in the area rather than going into the water. And people can potentially drink that. Um, so with the Technosols industry, or rather the studies, we've continued on with it because it's been pretty successful. They're still pretty young in their use, but in an article looking at microbial communities, even they say that although the technology for technosols is an expansion, knowledge about the microbial communities in technosols are limited, despite their central role in ecosystem functioning. And for most people, just microbes are essentially the largest in size group of microorganisms, as in they're physically large, and they're pretty key for decomposing, um, suppressing diseases, making sure soil structure is good, as well as allowing nutrients to be ingested by plants, because plants can't just eat those chemicals by themselves. These microbes have to break it down for them. And since the time that article was written back in 2012, the understanding of technosols has greatly improved, and they're pretty amazing so far. But some results suggest that um, they're to be mixed with a native soil as well, not just used only just by itself. That gets expensive, and it creates a hybrid environment for that soil to live in. And what we saw is that those microbes that were placed in the soils before, if they were not mixed, they would just dominate every other microorganism in the soil, and it would be like planting one tree all over again, but with organisms. So mixing and hybridizing is just the best way to ensure good biodiversity and a really efficient natural climate solution. And the best strategy at the moment is combining that mine waste, industrial waste, other residues, maybe from nearby communities, and creating a technosol through waste products. The conclusion. So there's a lot of environmental remediation for California to do, but it's all underway despite the unfortunate exploitation of the green movement by companies and their greenwashing. We looked at Iron Mountain's water treatment to nutrient management in the Sierra Nevada, as well as the promising future for technosols. There is real recovery happening in California, as well as all over the world with other mines. Awareness of these programs is painfully low, despite all of them being heavily tax funded, with some select nonprofit organizations overseeing a couple locations, mostly small trail work and native population boosting. Um, Supporting informed science-backed climate solutions will lead to healthier futures and healthier communities. And thank you so much.